Date to your potential, inspiring, educating, and empowering single members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Our hosts are Peggy Matheson, betrayal trauma recovery expert, and Sharon Collier, certified life and relationship coach.
Get your kicks on Route 66. Okay, we have episode 66. There's my ADHD brain. Route 66, that song by Chuck Berry. I was not alive when that song was recorded. Just want you to know that I'm not of that age yet. Anyway, back to our podcast.
I was having a hard time making that connection this morning. I'm like, why would you do Route 66?
Because we have episode 66.
It's Monday morning. Yay.
We are revisiting because we all need to go back to the basics.
Yes.
We are revisiting Dating 101.
Yes.
And we hope that we've gotten even better at sharing about this. So you guys will get something new out of it maybe today. Yeah. Or a reminder that is really important for you.
Yes, if you're an experienced dater, hopefully there's some little nuggets in here that will help you date a little better. And if you're a beginner dater, well, let's talk about
101,
beginning the dating process. So, I talk about my 5 C's. Peggy's had to sit through. She's had to sit through some of my conference presentations.
Super fun, by the way. Sharon's very good. Anybody out there that wants a great speaker for a conference?
Oh, thank you. Anyways, I talk about my 5 C's of relationships, and I don't know why I just started with the letter C, and so
because it goes before D. C, D. A, B, C, D, and dating is D. You have to do all the C's first.
Oh, you know what? That's perfect. Thank you. I again, wasn't on purpose, but good point, Peggy. Thank you. We'll go with that one now. So 5 C's of dating, because we need some kind of guidelines, right? So
I think it's helpful.
We start with chemistry. Of course, we have to have the initial attraction, right? And if you want to know a lot about attraction, we did attraction, a whole podcast on attraction alone. There's a lot of different ways we're attracted. So we start out with chemistry because that is our initial attraction. And then we go on to connection. This is the things we have in common. This is when we find out we're going the same direction in life. We have the same values and goals and all the things that we, hobbies, things that we have in common. So that's connection. And I always say connection before affection. So the next C would be contact. Contact. We like contact.
Make contact.
Yes, physical contact. That is our affection. But, I really promote the connection first. Make sure there's something that's going to hold that relationship together, because a lot of people rely on the affection and the contact to hold the relationship together, and that is not a healthy way to be, right?
And think about it. It's not going to ever work. That's not going to work in a marriage if you rely on the physical contact.
Yes.
And you don't have the connection.
Yeah, you really do, especially the
That's
second
a
time
painful
around.
life.
The second time around, we're not growing up with a person anymore. The second time around, we need that connection. We need those things in common. We need things to look forward to together, to really, be the glue that holds this relationship together. So that would be contact would be the next one. And then after that, I have conflict resolution and communication. So important. And actually that could come anywhere in this whole thing, but it's there toward the end, because a lot of times people don't think they'd have anything to fight about. They're so happy and they've got all the good love chemicals going on. Right. And they just think, well, what would we ever fight about? So it's super important. Even if you're not having conflicts yet, you will. Conflicts are inevitable, yes. Right? Fighting is optional. But your communication style, you can establish that early on in a relationship. How do you want me to communicate things to you? Because there's a lot of injuries from divorce, and there's injuries from being widowed, and some widows and widowers didn't have the healthiest marriage. So, you know, a lot of people think they're being jumped on when they're not. So it's like,
Right.
establish this communication style. How would you like me to communicate? You know, sometimes you're going to annoy me. How would you like me
To say that to you.
To communicate. How
Right.
would you like to resolve conflict? Because we don't need to fight. We're grown-ups. And there's a lot, you know, we have some angst and some baggage, but let's not, you know, it's like it's us against the problems.
Yeah,
not
set yourself
us
up for
against each other.
success.
Yes.
Right. Us against the problem. I like that.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
not us against each other.
Right. And so if you're conscious about that, you're going to be one step ahead of the game
Yes.
when that stuff comes. And it will come.
Yes.
Don't live in a fantasy world and think it won't.
Oh, no, because nobody's perfect. And, you know, we all come from different backgrounds and different upbringings and different marriages and everything. So don't think that, you know, it's going to be super, super smooth and easy. I've talked to the best of people in my widow group that got remarried, and they've struggled, you know, just because they're coming from just different situations. Even if they were both good situations, they're different.
Well, and that's just a little side note here and a reminder that relationships are where we meet our unfinished business, and they're a part of the
Yes.
refining process. There's a reason that marriage is a celestial thing
Yes.
because it refines us. So, and I do know couples that have been really, really blessed with very little conflict. They've had great personalities together, but that is very rare.
It is.
That
It
is very rare.
It is. And, you know, but we can always hope for the best. And like Peggy just said, we're setting ourselves up for success if we can talk about conflict resolution and learn how to communicate early on. So that is the last one before we go into commitment. So today, Dating 101, I've kind of broken it all down so that we can, if we pick it apart, maybe it's just going to be easier for all of us, right?
Right.
So, the initial attraction.
My
Okay.
favorite part.
So I want to talk about the attraction and sometimes our approach. Okay, we're going to go from the attraction to chatting. Okay, we see somebody we're attracted to. We're sitting next to them at a singles party or a potluck or a
Fireside.
FHE or a fireside, or we're sitting and it's like, oh my gosh, they're visually attractive. We've had a little exchange. Oh my gosh, they're flirty, they're fun. Okay, there's an attraction there. So how do you get from attraction to actually chatting? Because chatting would be the first step really to getting to know someone, right?
Right.
You know, what's the approach there? Is it somebody you've met on Facebook through a singles group? Is it somebody you've been watching, you've been watching posts and things in a singles group? So it could be online or in person. How do we get to chatting?
How do we bridge that? Not really a
Yes.
gap, but how do we bridge that from attraction to actually connection?
Yes, because I feel like we live in a world where people aren't bold enough to say, hey, can I just get your phone number? Those who can, you are way ahead of the game,
Right.
But this is where flirting comes in. This is where flirting comes in. And you need to be careful with your approach, because if you're going to reach out and chat with somebody, you don't want to turn them on and turn them off in the same minute.
Right.
I've used the example. There was a guy in my widow group, and he friended me on Facebook. And friending people on Facebook is a really good first step. But he would pop in every once in a while and be kind of flirty, and that was fun. But watching his posts, I wasn't interested. I really wasn't interested. He was an attractive guy, but he had some health issues, and you could see from his posts that I thought, well, that's a lot to take on. Where I'm happily single and my life is pretty easy, I thought that's just kind of a lot to take on. So I wasn't overly attracted to him. And so one day he just pops in on Messenger and he says, ouch, I hurt my knee. And I was like, okay, that must be for someone else. I'm like, I have no idea where he's going.
That's out of the blue. Weird.
Yeah. So I just sent a bunch of question marks thinking he'll look at it and go, oh my gosh, that was for somebody else. And he said, I hurt my knees when I fell for you. Oh. Okay. All right. Big smile on my face. Right? Cheesy line. I'm digging it. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay,
Cheesy line.
I'm like, what you got next? You know? So I said to him, I said, well done. I said, how are you anyways? And so, cause I'm smiling, the big grin on my face. I'm like, okay, I'm digging this as a coach and as a woman, both.
Yeah,
Cause
yeah.
I'm like, well done, mister.
Yeah.
Anyways, I said, how are you? And he goes, well, I'm doing better, but I haven't been well. And I'm like, oh, you're diabetes. Cause I've, seen him on Facebook. And he tells me no. He goes, my testosterone levels were so low. They were like a 4 and they're supposed to be like an 80, or I'm not sure. I get corrected all the time when I tell this story. And I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. Started out good.
Yeah.
Just,
so
just
I mean,
dropped really
it's
bad.
like this roller coaster of woo, we went way up real fast and then we dropped really fast. It was like, oh, okay. So that goes on the list of things
you
that I'm
don't
not
talk about.
that I'm not interested in anymore, but literally he might have gotten a date off a funny line. And if he kept flirting, I might have been like, okay, like I'll see,
Right.
I will go out and see what you're all about. So be really careful with your approach. If you're gonna like do a cheesy line, man, you embrace that and you just do it. You totally
Right.
commit to that and do it.
This is a good approach. I mean, the initial one, making a woman laugh, making her smile.
Yes.
In a real way, not in the cheesy is, absolutely straight up cheesy. That's one thing.
Right.
But, go for it.
Just commit. Yeah.
Yeah, commit. And, making her laugh gets her in a place of positive energy around you.
Yeah.
And I love that. I think that's a great way.
If you can do your approach witty or funny, if you're in person with somebody and you've been having a little conversation at a dinner or at a fireside or something, get out your phone and say, hey, we got to be friends on Facebook. Find out who they are. If you're not comfortable saying, hey, I would love your number, do something cutesy. Oh, you know what? I've had so much fun with you tonight. We got to be friends. We got to be friends on Facebook. What's your name? Like, how do I get a hold of you is pretty
Right.
much what you're saying.
Right.
So the more clever you can be, the funner you can be, the happier, the better. And this is in your approach to get to the chatting point. Now, we just talked a lot about that. Just keep it simple. If you can keep it simple and witty,
Yeah, this
You're
is not, this is not your moment to share all of the bad things that have happened to you and
No,
to do
this is-
therapy with this
yeah.
person.
Yes.
This is not the moment where you go, can you give me some empathy?
Right.
This is not that moment.
right. And if you're trying to get somebody to chat with you, playing the victim, like Peggy was saying, playing the victim is not the way to go. There's some poor man, I think he lives in Idaho, that I'm friends with on Facebook, and everything is victim, victim, victim. I can't get anybody to date me. I can't get anybody to love me. I live a loveless life. It's so lonely. And I'm like, dude, that is not the way to get someone to chat with you. Like, I wouldn't want to chat with him.
Yeah, who wants to chat
You
with
know, if he
anyone like
popped in,
that?
I think I would probably ignore it. So yeah, you don't want to play the victim. You want to appear attractive just to get to the chatting stage, right? So,
Right.
And it's probably not hard to get to the chatting stage because most people, if they're at a singles thing, they're wanting to date. So
Right.
just keep this in mind that getting from the initial attraction to chatting, it shouldn't be hard.
Right. And I want to just kind of, we've talked before about two of the most attractive qualities are being happy and confident.
Yes.
So lead out with that.
Yeah.
In whatever way you are in your life right now, you don't have to be like completely happy and not depressed at all or totally confident in everything, but in whatever way you are, lead out with that.
Yeah. And if you find something that works that gets you to chat, like online when people say hi, I never answer. We've already talked about
Right.
that. It's ridiculous. That's like the lazy. It's like they can say hi to 50 people and see who responds.
Right.
So to me, I want to know something they like about me or something they're going to ask about me or some fun banter or a cheesy line or something like that, right?
So yes, and here's why I want to just make this clear. The high thing, like you said, you could be sending that to 20 people.
Yeah.
It doesn't make you feel special.
No.
If you want to be successful, do something that'll make the other person feel like you're thinking about them, like they're special, like you've noticed
That you're
something
actually
interested
or that you're
in
interested.
them.
Yes.
Specifically, that's a great way to start off on a positive foot.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, if they're smiling, I have to tell you, I scraped my knee falling for you or whatever. I just had the biggest smile on my face, and I felt that. I'm like,
Right.
oh my gosh, I'm smiling, you know? I'm like, okay, maybe I would give him a chance. So get to the point of chatting. This is our attraction to chatting. So once we're chatting online, if you're brave enough to chat on the phone, because a lot of people don't like this, it's interesting as I talk to different people. Some people are not texters. They'd rather be on the phone. And then some people are like, oh, I don't want to be on the phone and all. I'd rather text. They'd rather be sending messages and texts than on the phone. But I have to tell you, this is one of my big soapboxes. Talking on the phone is very telling.
Yes.
You can tell if a person is positive, if they're negative. There's so much more to a person on the phone. And if you're nervous to talk on the phone, just say it. You know what? Talking on the phone just kind of freaks me out a little bit. It's kind of a lost art and I don't do it. Embrace it. You know what? I'm not good at it, but let's do it.
It's another form of connection before you invest in the time and the
Yes.
money to be together in person. But yeah, talking on the phone is a really great next step. I love to hear their voice.
Yes.
It tells me a lot about them
Yes.
to hear their voice, and it should tell them a lot about me to hear my voice. And I think we forget that, like you said, it's a lost art in our very digital world where it's so visual.
Yeah.
We're watching videos and hearing people through microphones like this way.
yes.
But let's get on the phone. Let's
and
have
connect.
some conversations.
And you know what? I've saved a lot of men a lot of time and money by just being completely turned off on the phone and not going out with them. Had they texted me and said, let's go on a date, they would have wasted a lot of time and money
Yeah.
on a date. So, you know, just, stick to the phone.
And whatever the fear is, figure out what you're afraid of and head it off at the pass.
Yeah.
Like if you're afraid of, well, what if I don't like them and I have to say it over the phone or whatever? I mean,
Right.
well, figure out a way to say, hey, you know what? I really appreciate your time, but this I'm not feeling a connection here that I think would be, valuable for you and for me.
Right.
So
Well, and-
figure out some languaging ahead of time if that's your
Yes.
fear or if there's something else.
Right.
Prepare yourself.
Yeah. Think of things to talk about. But here's the deal. Most of us are not going to be one and done. Right? Most of us are not going to chat with one person and date one person and you're done.
Mm-hmm.
So having these things in your back pocket is a good idea anyways.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how do you let someone down easy? How do you just tell everyone, you know what? I don't think you're,
My person.
My person. I don't think,
I want to let you go and be with somebody else who was your person.
It's like, probably don't want to go out with you, but thank you. Thank you for asking. Whatever it is, whatever is your style of, that kind of communication, be prepared, have it in your back pocket because it's going to come up.
I love that.
It's going to come up because like I said, we're not going to be one and done.
And
most
that's
of
going
us.
that's going to bring more confidence.
Yes.
If you have some structure and some ideas already in your
Yes.
head and what you're going to do, that's going to bring more confidence in going
conversation
out there.
conversation
dating.
ideas are always good. We always kind of stick to the same things. What do you do for a living? Well, it's important to know, right? There's some important
Or where do you
things
live or something
you
like
know,
that.
yeah, those kind of things, but maybe throw some really original things in there that not everybody's asking because, we want to stand out.
Right.
As men and women, we want to stand out. So we're going to go from chatting to asking for a date. How many times you experienced daters? How many times have you chatted and chatted and chatted and chatted and chatted and it never ever went to asking for a date? I know LDS Planet was a big thing when I first started dating, and it wasn't run by scammers, and it was run by LDS people. I think they've sold it. Somebody said, and LDS Planet really isn't a thing anymore. But so many people on LDS Planet, and it's like I would chat for 2 weeks and then go, okay, are you ever going to ask me out? I don't get where the chatting is going. And it's
Right.
and then one guy even said, well, what are you doing tomorrow night? And I'm like, okay, here it is. And I said, you know what? I don't have anything. And he goes, all right, I'll call you then. It was like, oh. So getting to a date, if you are connecting with somebody, Don't sit and chat for weeks and weeks and weeks. You want to chat for days and then get to it. It's like, okay, we're connecting on the phone. We've connected on the phone for 3 nights in a row now. Maybe we should take this to the donut shop, you know? Maybe we should go get some dessert some night. Maybe we should go get a soda. Maybe we should even go to dinner, depending on the level of connection you're feeling, right? So asking for a date, there is nothing wrong with saying, hey, can I take you to dinner tomorrow night?
Right.
There is nothing. One guy popped in on Messenger. He was in my widow group. We met at a conference, and he actually just popped in on Messenger, and we never even chatted, and said, do you want to go out on a date? And my response was, with you? Which started us off on a good foot.
Yeah.
You know, kind of a fun thing. And then I'm like, sure. I knew he was a nice guy. I'd had a couple interactions with him, and other women had gone out with him. And so I already knew he was nice. And we went on a couple nice dates. And so there's nothing wrong with just keeping it simple and asking for what you want. Yes.
Simple and direct is good.
It's like, just be bold and say it. Ladies, you can ask a guy out, but you know my rule, right? It's like, ask him on one date. Ask him on one date and go have fun. And then like leave the ball in his court. You don't need to ask him on a second date, because there's a fine line between
a green light,
dating.
a real green light.
Yeah,
and taking control of the.
Well, and then being the dude in the relationship.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that. You don't want to try to take the reins, because he's gonna either not want that, or he's gonna turn into the female in the relationship.
Yeah,
and
it's not going to be a healthy thing.
And we don't want that. But yes, just be bold and just say it. Just ask someone out. A girlfriend was just saying that. It's like, how do you get them to just be like, okay, like, let's go out? And like, I got a guy to kiss me once by saying, are you ever going to kiss me? And he was like, Sharon. And I'm like, it's like our 5th date, you know? It's like, we've hung out a whole lot. And I got kissed. You know, so there's nothing wrong with being bold, but I mean, I know my personality is a little different. I know if I was introverted, I probably wouldn't be super comfortable.
You can find a fun, flirty way to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just all kinds of ways you could find a fun, flirty way to just kind of put a question out there without being super direct about it.
It's like, oh, maybe someday you'll ask me out. Winky face, smiley face, laughy face.
I look forward to someday meeting you in person.
Yeah.
Because I've had such a great conversation with you on here.
Yeah. Yep. So there's all sorts of ways. So we want to ask for the date. Okay. Do we need to talk about dressing appropriately? Should we take a minute?
Please. It's just like, it's always good to be reminded that, yes, you need to dress appropriately. You need to put yourself out there in a confident, happy way. And that has to do with your physical appearance too.
Yes. So I always wondered about that, because I waited a year to start dating. It's like, oh my gosh, because it had been so many years. It's like, are they going to ask me out? Is it going to be a surprise date? What do I do? Do I ask what we're doing? I don't know. And I would think about these things as I started like thinking in my head, like my game plan for dating, because, got lonely really fast. And I would think about things like that. And then guys would say, hey, do you want to go to dinner? And I'm like, oh, yeah, and they generally tell me we're going to Texas Roadhouse. Okay, I know how to dress for that, right?
Right.
So you want to dress appropriately. So if you're going to play mini golf, ladies, you don't want to be in spiky heels.
Right.
Okay, even if they're cute and brand new, right? Right? We want to dress appropriately. We don't want to look like we're high maintenance while we're playing mini golf. We're your kids. Dress cute and for outside and for mini golf. So we want to dress appropriately, right? And if you are super high maintenance, maybe tone it down a little bit. These ladies going, I can't imagine going anywhere without my heels on or whatever, so we want to dress appropriately for the date. And if you're asking on the date, let them know, hey, we're going to Thanksgiving Point to the corn maze. You're going to want a jacket. You'll probably want a jacket. It's going to be,
that's a really great way to take care of your date, is to help them be prepared for whatever it is.
Yeah. It's like you'll probably want to dress warm and it'll probably be muddy. So, let's talk about that. And then hygiene, please, 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 please take a shower. Okay? Wash your clothes. Even if you're one of
these people that believes in saving water and you don't shower every day, do it before you go on the date.
Do it and make sure you're in clean clothes. I remember dancing with someone who smelled like he just took his sweater out of the bottom of the
so if you've just pulled all of your winter clothes out and they haven't been washed or refreshed, you might want to do that.
You don't want people like wincing at you.
No.
It's like, well, that was kind of a fun date, but I couldn't handle the smell of her clothes or shoes or whatever. And guys, you just need to know, this is a gentle reminder that if a girl is interested in you, she's putting a lot of time and effort into getting ready for that date. Like her fingernails will probably be really pretty. She's got a lot of makeup on. Her hair is going to be on point. She might have even bought a new outfit. So if you show up in a ratty shirt and blue jeans, and you're untucked and you're kind of like, this is just who I am, it's a little disappointing for those of us who probably getting ready at noon for a dinner date,
That is not me, by the way. I do not polish my nails for every first date, but I do make the effort to look my best and feel good about the way I look. And
I hear a lot of people say, I went and got I was so excited to go out with him. I got a new blouse, So
it's just a fun thing to do.
Keep that in mind. Okay. Let's move to the actual date. The actual date. This is something you've got planned. This is not something you're talking about after you've picked her up.
And go, what are we going to do?
Yeah. No, what do you want to do after dinner?
No,
well, if you got nothing to do after dinner, you take her home. Or if this is early on, we're meeting there.
Right. If it's the first date, you're going to meet there.
We're going to meet there.
For safety purposes.
Yes, we're going to talk about safety in a minute. Just a few tips. But yes, so we're meeting there. So if dinner is all you have planned, then call it a night. Don't ask them, is there something else you want to do? Or definitely don't get in the car. Maybe we're talking about safety here. Let's go for a drive in the canyon. Do not get in their car on the first date. I mean, unless you have like a bunch of mutual friends or it was the setup
unless there's extenuating circumstances that about this person.
If you think them, if you've flirted for a long time online and you've chatted for a long time and stuff, don't just be safe. Just better safe than sorry, right? Yeah. And always let somebody know where you are.
Yeah.
Let hey, idea. I'm going to this restaurant with this guy. I don't really know him. I feel safe, but And then if you're going to go to another location, maybe text someone and say, hey, we're hitting up the bowling alley. So practice safety. All right, the actual first date. We're going to keep it upbeat and positive. We're not going to cry about our ex. We're not going to cry about our late spouse. I did that. We're not going to complain. We're not going to do anything negative at all. This is going to be fun. There's already enough nerves, right? Do we need to make it negative? Negative and nerves, right? Wouldn't you rather have fun and have nerves at the same time than negative and nerves? So we're going to be positive and we're going to be flirty. Okay? Ooh, girls, you know how to go at their dumb jokes? Right? Oh, look at Peggy. Peggy knows how.
On cue.
Yeah. Okay. So on the first date, I always recommend that you do something that they're interested in. If you're asking them out, it's like, let's go do something you want to do. Like that you've already learned from chatting with them or you've learned from their online profile or from Facebook or something that they would like to do. Hey, I saw that you really love guns. Let's go shooting guns. Hey, you look like you're really athletic, or I've noticed you're athletic. You don't want to go try axe throwing, something that they would want to do. And then maybe if that goes really well on the next date, you show them something that you like to do, maybe that they don't know how to do. So unless you pull you need to show me how to do that in the flirting stages, then it's like, we do need to go do that because you need to show me.
Because I've never done that
I've never done that before. I've never shot a gun before. So will you show me how to shoot a gun? If you want to pull that to get the date, then do that.
Totally fine.
Totally fine. But then, then you want to be sharing interests. And so when it comes down to dating, you want to, the things that you both think that you're interested in, you want to be doing those things. My brother dated a girl that said she was into hiking, but they never went hiking. It was winter. She was not into hiking at all. Like he loved hiking. He loved mountain biking.
That was
he
her
loved
being a little deceptive.
She was being a little deceptive. So if you have things in common, you go do those. Because if they don't like to do those, then you're kind of stuck with them after marriage. So you want to know, number one, that they actually do like to do them. And you do want to do your shared interests because that's fun for both of you. And that connects you.
Right. And it builds more connection on the date.
Yes.
Like if you're a real, if you really love museums or something, you really love art, there's a lot to talk about if you both are interested. Or maybe one of you is like, wow, I've never been there. I've never had much training in art. And the other person goes, oh my gosh, I had courses in college and you wouldn't believe that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Those are ways to connect.
Yes, there are definitely ways to connect and doing things you like together. You produce all those good chemicals,
right?
And it just helps with the connection. So I just want to make a note in all of these. We're not doing all these things to check boxes. Okay, this is all, you're trying to have fun. You're trying to
have an experience together.
Yes, an experience. And so it's like, okay, I know I like to do this. Okay, we did that, check. Okay, you like to do this. We did this, check. None of the dating process is checking boxes. I just want to say, if you feel like you're going through, okay, we've done this and this and this and this, now it's time for this. We don't want to do that. We want things to kind of develop naturally.
Right. We want to have experiences. We want to connect. We want to see how it flows. We want to see, as we set these things up, well, how's the relationship going to build from there?
Yes.
And so, yeah, I love that you brought that up. It's not a bunch of boxes that we need
but
to
I
check.
feel like it is. We've been on 3 dates. I think, I hope he kisses me this next time. Okay. Do you want to get kissed because you like him, or do you want to get kissed because
it's the third date it's time?
Because it's time, So we really do want to let things flow naturally. If you're not there yet on the third date and you still want to explore the relationship, this is where the communication comes in. Right. It's like, you know what? I'm not there yet, but I would love to continue getting to know you, so make sure. Because the next one is affection. We're going to talk about affection a little bit because, it is an important part of connecting, right? Our physical affection and physical connection, but once again, not a box to check. This should be something that you both want to happen.
And it should feel comfortable.
Yes.
And you can start with little things like touching an elbow or if you're having fun and playful, just kind of slapping the shoulder or something like that.
Oh yeah. No, breaking the touch barrier just makes it easier for them to grab your hand or something.
And that can happen pretty quickly if you're feeling connected and,
Yeah. So I went with a guy to Park City to go listen to live music, and the band was still setting up and Main Street was closed. If anybody has a visual on Main Street in Park City, all the lights were on. It was really kind of romantic. He goes, let's just go walk up Main Street. And I'm like, okay. Anyways, we started walking, and he said, it's kind of too romantic of a night to not hold your hand.
Oh, that's a cute way to do it.
And it was like, oh my gosh, I wasn't going to say no to that.
Really?
It just, it was like, it's just too perfect right now to not hold your hand. And it was like, hold my hand, buddy.
Right.
So, as we get into the affection, it should be something, that you both want.
And that feels comfortable at the time.
And this was not our first date. Had it been our first date, it might have been different. It might have been awkward and tense and weird. So you want to have several dates. And like I said before, you want to know that you have things in common and you're connecting on levels.
Right. And before you do all the physical contact, you want to know that you're going in a direction that's going to be a full relationship full of lots of things that you want and love before you do all this
values
contact.
And religion. Of course, we're all LDS. Hopefully that's a thing. But then, it's like, okay, I do want to take this to the next level. But hopefully you're both on the same page with this, And, we talk about green lights and flirting and things like that. Same thing. Ladies, gentlemen, give a green light. if you've ever watched Hitch, it's like, well, she's going to play with her keys and she's going to look at her your mouth.
At the door.
Yes, if she's dawdling at the door, or if she's kind of lingering in the car or something. But I have to say, guys, girls love romance. And so if you were in a romantic spot, that just makes the first kiss just magical. It doesn't necessarily need to be in the car or in the parking lot at the doorstep. It doesn't necessarily need to be that. It could, just saying, most girls are super romantic. So the more romantic, the better. But we do want to get to that point, and we do want to make sure that there is some glue that would hold this relationship together. All right. Next up would be our hard conversations. This would be under communication and
conflict.
The conflict resolution. Here's the thing. We have to have them. This is the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Sometimes we have to have them before we go on a date, and we have to say no thank you before to somebody. And sometimes that's hard for people to do, but get practicing that, because you got to build that muscle if you haven't. Right.
So hopefully the chatting and the first date are actually fun and frolicky and lighthearted. So, it's like, okay, we're getting to this stage now where we need to have, what is the good, the bad, and the ugly? What is your ugly side?
I'm not showing that to you. No,
do you know what your ugly side is?
Do you know how you get triggered? Do you know what it looks like? Do you know where your weaknesses are?
Yes. And sometimes just like breaking down your hopes and dreams with somebody, being vulnerable. That's a hard conversation sometimes for some people. And so, what are your hopes and dreams? What do you look like, ladies, without makeup on? Guess what? He needs to know.
At some point, probably not until after the third date.
Yeah, like maybe kiss him first and reel him in. I don't, But this needs to be, you need to make sure that you're being honest.
Yes.
How bad was the divorce? The divorce was bad. The divorce was bad. I've had a year of therapy. And that's okay. But that's a conversation you need to have. It's like, I had a year of therapy and I feel like I'm in just like a really good place now with my life. I'm living a well-balanced, happy life. The kids are in a good place. We're all in a good place. I've got a job. I've got plans for the future and stuff. So it doesn't matter, because there's still some kind of stigma to therapy. And hopefully anybody who's gotten a divorce or has gone through grief is getting a little therapy.
Getting some support.
Because we all need emotional support through all those things. But this is the hard conversations, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And hopefully the ugly isn't too ugly. And this is where you kind of decide. It's like, you take the good with the bad. It's like, okay, can I handle the bad?
Yeah. Well, and there are going to be conversations that are uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, what if one person does something that you're uncomfortable with? What if the other person breaks the touch barrier and they didn't ask and it just happened and you're uncomfortable with it and maybe it's taken you by surprise? It's important to maybe think ahead of time, think through this kind of thing. What if it happened? And how do you approach it?
Right.
What do you say?
Right.
Are you okay saying no? Some people struggle with that.
Yes.
Are you okay saying no? Just like no.
Right.
Or just say, I'm uncomfortable with that. Or, some of these things are challenging. Or like, you know what? That's a conversation that I feel is inappropriate right now.
Yeah.
How do you say those things? And think about it ahead of time.
Right.
But that's part of the, that's going to show you, that's going to teach you a lot in the relationship. Can you handle conflict? Can you handle it when one person wants to do one thing and you don't?
Right. And then there's going to be situations. I mean, there's people who go out and kiss anybody. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, I'll kiss anybody anytime kind of thing, where like, you're not like that. And so this is where your boundaries come in. This is your value system. And it's like, oh, I just don't give that away freely like that.
Right.
That's great that you do, but I just don't do that. Is that going to be a problem for you? Find out early, ask the questions. Is this going to be a problem for you? Because it might be.
And if you're listening to this and your heart rate is getting high as we're talking about these things, and you're one of those people that wants to just be nice to everybody and it's been hard for you to deal with this kind of thing, I encourage you to practice.
Yes.
to create some scenarios with a good friend and practice using the words you need to use to say no in one way or another, or to
Yes.
bring it up if it's uncomfortable, so you live within your value system and you don't allow the other person to kind of take over.
Right. Well, a lot of people don't think about boundaries on a daily basis, because we need boundaries in our life with everybody, but it's so important with dating and relationships. If you're getting married again, this is hopefully, a forever thing, and you got to establish your values.
Right.
And it's not like you're a bad person because you don't agree with my values. It's like, no, this is my value system, and you do you. Are you going to have a problem with this? Because I'm not going to kiss you on the first date.
Right.
I understand that's how you do it. And some people are just, some people are hand-holding and huggy and all that stuff. And, it's like Peggy just said, we have to be prepared for that. I don't mind holding hands with somebody, but it's not going to escalate to kissing just because I held somebody's hand.
Right.
Kind of thing. But we kind of need to establish that. It's like, oh, I'm sorry if holding my hand gave you the wrong idea. No, that's not a big deal for me, but I don't kiss on the first date. Ever. And sometimes I've said that in the beginning, like they've asked. It's like, are you kind of like, do we get to have fun in your car after, are we going to hit the back seat? And it's like, oh no, I don't, is that going to be a problem for you because I don't kiss on the first date? Oh no, it's not going to be a problem at all. Most guys have been really respectful of that, but I've established that from the get-go.
And guys, you might need to establish this too. I don't,
Yeah.
I've heard stories. I've not experienced that myself because I'm not that kind of a woman, but I've heard stories about women that are, move too fast for the
Yeah.
guys. Like it's uncomfortable for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, guys can set that boundary
Oh yeah,
too.
for sure. Oh, for sure. This is definitely not, we have to watch our pronouns sometimes.
Right. Yeah. So, and I would love for, if anybody again is listening to this and you are struggling, this is something you struggle with, take some of the phrases that we have said and write them down and
Yes.
practice with
Yes.
someone. Get them in your head, get them in your body, get them in your voice.
Yeah, what is comfortable for you?
Yeah.
For sure. All right. So communication, conflict resolution, we talked about boundaries. The commitment part. The only thing I really have to say about the commitment part is make sure that if you're making a commitment, it means the same thing to both of you.
That's a really good point.
Establish that. It's like, oh, I'm going to call you my girlfriend, but I really don't want to be exclusive. Establish what that is. Establish the expectations for the relationship, I mean, it's like we have a long distance thing. Let's try to see each other twice a week. Maybe Tuesday nights and Saturday. Or, it's, Monday night's the only night I really have, but Saturday morning is always breakfast. But establish, the expectations for the relationship, because a lot of people don't do that. And
another great way to set yourself up for success.
Yes. And that's what we want to do, right? We want to give it the best chance we can. And this is why we promote the baggage thing. Get rid of your baggage. Get your baggage under control. Be in a good place before you really start dating, because
Yes.
you want to give every person a
Yes.
fair shot.
Right.
And, to give it, and you want the best possible results.
Right.
So-
And I'm going to say this too. If you're listening to this and you're going, oh, and you think, oh, wait, we mentioned baggage, we mentioned taking care of the past, taking care of things that are in the past that should be in the past but are still in the present. That's a good way to put it. Things
Yes.
that aren't happy in your life or that you've struggled with, if they're still showing up in the present moment when you're interacting
Yes.
with other people, that's your work. That's something that right now, as we're talking, commit to doing something about it. Commit to going to a therapist, going to a
Yes.
coach, finding someone to help you to unpack that and to heal that so you can be happy in the present moment and not bringing the past
Yes. Into the present moment.
present moment and
It's-
into your
yeah.
future relationships.
It's true. And nobody wants to think they have baggage. Oh no, I'm in a really good place.
There's always
with your
work to be done.
Yeah. Yes.
And there's levels of it, and like we're talking about, there's levels of it where you need to do it before you date. You take care of it before you date. And there's levels that are going to come up when you're dating, which is the plan. I mean,
Right.
relationships bring stuff up. So,
Right. Well, and then I always use my husband as an example. My husband suffered from mental illness. He had bipolar. And there's so many different aspects to mental illness now that we didn't know then
Yeah.
there's, somebody asked me, did he have bipolar 1 or 2? I'm like, I have no idea.
Right. Back then they didn't know.
Back then we didn't know. But guess what? Being in love, all the dating and all the love chemicals, everybody told me I've never seen Jeff happier. And I'm like, well, it all makes sense now because you have all these great hormones and you have all the great chemicals and you feel happy. And it's masking your anger. It's masking your injuries. It's masking all the things that we call baggage that nobody wants to admit that they have. So very important,
Because
important.
It
part of
will
this.
show up. Just because you're happy now, it will show up.
Yes.
And so be prepared one way or the other.
Hormone levels drop.
Right.
And so we really do have to be careful. But hopefully this was helpful today.
Yes.
And
Getting you prepared.
yes.
And hopefully a review for some of us. I know this has been great for me to kind of review and think through my dating life and, am I doing this? Am I doing that? And
Yeah. Or it's like,
So-
maybe that would have made a difference in this situation.
Right.
Or something. So,
good. Thanks, Sharon.
You're welcome.
You're so great at this.
Well, thank you.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Until next time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and that it inspired you on your dating journey. Please share this with anyone you think might benefit from what you've heard today and click the button to follow us. You can reach either Sharon or I at datetoyourpotential.com. We work with people who are single or married. We want you to know you are not alone. We support you. We are in this with you.